Good afternoon and welcome to the first board meeting of the new academic year. As is the annual tradition, President Barron welcomed the new class at the new student convocation. This event is a celebration of what's old and new at Penn State. From singing the alma mater as a class for the first time to learning that one of their new classmates was on the TV show Wife Swap, to doing the We Are cheer, which was led by wpsu President Laura McKinney. Convocation was an uplifting and welcoming event, so thank you, Laura, for leading that. In fact, You Are Welcome Here is the theme that can be seen on the banners in State College and around campus. A joint project by UPUA and the State College Borough, it is designed to create a welcoming atmosphere that is even more important in light of recent incidents of hate and violence across the country. Thanks to Laura and the other UPUA representatives for bringing this positive message forward, so thank you. Also, thank you to President Barron, who reinforced this message of inclusion and diversity with a letter to the Penn State community released this week. So thank you, President Barron. As we've discussed, Penn State still has work to do in this area, but we are making progress. The incoming class is one of the most diverse in our history, and this spring, the first university-wide climate survey will be conducted. Thank you again to those in student affairs, education equity, and across the university for your work to create a welcoming atmosphere. Next, I'd like to highlight a significant project that marks a major change from the days when Penn State's main source of energy was a coal-fired steam plant, which wasn't all that long ago. Last Wednesday, President Barron, Governor Wolf, and CEO of Lightsource BP and other corporate, university, and community representatives attended a groundbreaking for a solar farm to be built near Penn State Mount Alto. This is the first of 3 solar farms that Lighthouse BP will build, own, and operate, with Penn State purchasing all the electricity generated under a 25-year power contract. The project is estimated to save Penn State at least $14 million over the contract term through solar's low cost of electricity, while meeting 25% of the university's statewide electricity needs. It will also dramatically lower Penn State's greenhouse gas emissions, so much so that it will be the equivalent of taking 12,100 fuel-burning cars off the road each year. That's pretty amazing. Right now, I'd like to show a short video to give you a better idea of the scope of the project. And thank you to everyone who was involved in making this project possible. Now I'm pleased that today we have 3 guests who will speak about our top priority, access and affordability. First is Sarah Dietrich, a hospitality management major in the College of Health and Human Development. Sarah began her education at Penn State Berks and has participated in the PASS program, which has enabled her to earn enough credits during the summer that she will be able to complete her degree in 3.5 years. We would be reminded that that is one of President Barron's goals and objectives. During her time at Penn State, she has also studied abroad, participating in THOD and the Hospitality Honor Society, and served at Berks Orientation Leader, all while earning a 3.8 GPA and working 20 hours a week at a local bakery. Sarah? Welcome. Is that okay here?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah, as he said. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's very much an honor. I'm here to talk about my experience at Penn State, specifically my experience with the PASS program. My journey began with Penn State in the summer of 2016. In the beginning, I was not excited to go to Berks at all instead of going here. This was my dream to come straight here, but what was a last-minute decision would turn into one of the best decisions I've ever made. I was part of the PASS program, so I took 6 credits that summer. I took an English class, and I took a speech class. The PASS program was definitely not what I expected, but in the best way possible. It was more than just taking summer classes, while it was preparing me for my coming years at Penn State. In addition to classes, we had sessions such as Stand for State training, how to succeed in college, and how to get involved in campus, etc. The program provided me with amazing mentors that not only helped me handle the new workload, but also how to navigate college in general. I also had the opportunity to work at the library in Berks, which was incredibly helpful. In addition to earning money without having to race across town to get to a job on time, it helped me learn the library before it got crazy hectic with students. I gained relationships with not only my peers, but also the faculty and staff who have continued to support me throughout my years at Penn State, even after the transition to University Park. The PASS program truly kickstarted my career and motivated me to work hard. I continue to take classes each summer, including one on a study abroad experience in Europe. PASS gave me the flexibility to make that choice to study abroad because I had a jump start on basic gen ed courses. My transition to University Park was a very easy one, and I am incredibly grateful for that. Throughout my time at Penn State, I feel like I was able to have the full college experience while maintaining a part-time job at a bakery downtown called Dolce Vita. I was able to hold leadership positions in clubs, a full class load, and I'll even get to graduate a semester early. I'll be walking across the stage this December after only 3.5 years. I attribute my success not only to my mentors, peers, and professors, but to Penn State as a whole for providing me the tool and resources necessary to be a successful student. I will forever be grateful for that last-minute decision to be a part of the PASS program. I'm not really sure what the future holds for me just yet. I'm a hospitality management major. I look forward to pursuing jobs in that field. I love restaurants, F&B. The main dream is to own a bakery one day, so look for me when I finally have that. But we'll see. I love to travel. We'll see where I end up. Whatever the future holds, I know I had a great education at an incredible university that I will forever be grateful for. Thank you so much again for having me here today and for all you do.
Thank you. I'm sure you'll have a successful future. And when I was reading your bio earlier, I was hoping you'd bring us cookies or something. But, maybe next time. Yeah. So thank you. Next, I'm pleased to introduce Taylor Machuca, who is a senior majoring in marketing in the Smeal College of Business. Taylor is from a small town in northern Jersey, which is where my wife's from, and she came to Penn State to pursue her interest in sports marketing. She began an internship with intercollegiate athletics in her first year. She also served as the Thon Family Relations Chair for her business fraternity. Unfortunately, Taylor faced some challenges that made finishing her degree look out of reach. But as part of the complete Penn State program, she is on track to complete her degree in 3.5 years so she can graduate this December. Taylor?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to reiterate some information. So my name is Taylor Machuga. I'm a senior majoring in marketing with a concentration in sports and a minor in media studies. I'm from a very, very, very small town in northern New Jersey called Wantage. For anyone in this room that's familiar with New Jersey, I know you said you were. That's about an hour from Morristown, about 15 minutes from Sparta, and I've lived there my entire life. So before I tell you a little bit more about myself, I wanted to take the time to thank you all for putting me in the position to be here speaking today. I would like to personally and formally thank President Barron and everybody in this room for presenting me with this opportunity. It's a true pleasure and honor to be here with you all today, and I'm very grateful for that. There are a few other people I would like to formally express my gratitude towards as well before I begin the speech today. I would like to thank my cousin, my parents, my grandfather, the financial aid office, and my internship supervisor, PJ Mullen, for all guiding me in some way, shape, or form through some of the most difficult obstacles over the past few years that I've faced. I would also like to personally thank Janet Spearley, Denise Poole, and Karen Wing, for introducing me to the complete Penn State program and giving me the ability to accomplish a dream that I have chased since I was a kid, and that's obtain a degree from the Pennsylvania State University, the greatest university in the United States, in the world even. In addition, thank you. In addition, I would also like to thank Mr. and Ms. Fight for their complete selflessness and generosity in awarding me the Open Doors Scholarship. Without all of you, I would not be standing here in front of you today, nor would I be lucky enough to be at a university as great as this one that has presented me more opportunities than I could have ever imagined. A simple thank you will never be enough. So my decision to come to Penn State was one I made subconsciously when I was probably around 8 years old. The decision was solidified the first time that I came to visit campus when I was 15 years old and I was just beginning my freshman year of high school. My cousin invited my mom and I to the last football game of that season against Wisconsin. It was probably around 20 degrees that night, but the feeling I had the second I stepped foot downtown that day to this day is still unmatched. For the next few years, I compared every college visit that I went on to this university and tried to keep an open opinion every time I went to another place, but on April 1st, 2016, I officially made the best decision of my entire life. My parents and I made the choice to finance my education here at Penn State through government-funded and private student loans. I was the first person in my immediate family to attend college, so this whole process was kind of relatively new to my entire family, so we spent a majority of that summer planning, researching, budgeting, and talking to friends about how we would get through the next 4 years. So coming into my freshman year, I knew I wanted to work in athletics, but I had no idea how, nor did I know what specifics that this industry even entailed. I explored career paths in physical therapy, sports journalism, marketing, management, coaching, anything you can kind of think of that dealt with sports. I explored pretty much everything before eventually narrowing my focus. I learned about a student organization called the Hockey Management Association from a friend and decided to try it out. And through that experience, I was offered an internship with the marketing department of athletics here. It was through this opportunity that I discovered my passion for the sports marketing industry. I've been interning with athletics for a little over 2 years now, and I've since taken on a leadership role that has taught me how to manage a team and really just immersed me in this industry and taught me my passions. I've also worked with Sky Blue FC, a women's professional soccer team, and Madison Square Garden Networks during the summer in New York City. I hope to pursue a career path in either collegiate or professional athletics following my intended graduation in December. Penn State, its resources, and network are the sole reason that I've had the opportunities to accomplish all that I just mentioned. I would not be in this position that I am without this university, and I would not be here if it weren't for the complete Penn State program. Financing my education became increasingly difficult my second semester sophomore year, where it became almost impossible for me to get approved for private student loans, which, as I mentioned earlier, was how my family and I planned to pay for the majority of my education. My mom had just found out that she needed to have both of her hips replaced in the span of a year, and this was very unexpected and became a financial burden not only to her but to my entire family. We fell behind in a lot of ways that I probably don't even know about, and as a result, there was no possible way that I could get approved for private student loans anymore for this university. So we reached out to extended family, kind of looked into every outlet that we had established so we could possibly fund my education from sophomore year until now. My parents even canceled their life insurance policies so that I could stay enrolled at this university, and I'm forever grateful for that. I can't ever thank them enough. So I made the decision to graduate this December because it makes the most financial sense given the circumstances. But going into this semester, I still really had no idea how I would be able to finish my degree, as my parents and I had exhausted kind of every resource that we had. But because of the complete Penn State program, I can confidently stand up here today and say that nothing stands in the way of me and my dream of receiving a degree from Penn State University. Come December, this is finally going to become a reality. This would not have been possible, again, without the complete Penn State program and all of the people that I mentioned earlier, everybody in this room, my supervisors, my family, President Barron. It really wouldn't be possible without you all, and I would like to take the time to thank each and every one of you again for your support as I chase my dream of graduating and becoming the first member of my family to earn a college degree. I truly hope that this wonderful program only continues to grow and help students in similar ways and situations as me to not only chase their dreams, but accomplish and absolutely crush them. This program has inspired me to want to give back one day and hopefully be in a position to be able to start a scholarship fund of my own for students and kids going through the same thing that I have or in a similar circumstance. So I just want to thank you again for having me today, and we are.
Well, those two young ladies are inspiring, so thank you, Taylor. Finally, we have someone familiar to many of you, Tom Sharball. Tom is a professor of practice at Penn State Law and is director of the university's Entrepreneurship Assistance Clinic and chair of the President's Club, among other activities. Today, he will tell us about his work with the Sokolov-Miller Family Financial and Life Skills Center. He and the director, Dadarisk, have been working to connect alumni and students for mentoring relationships developed and monitored by the center. Tom?
Good afternoon, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about what's called the Sokolov-Miller Family Financial and Wellbeing Center, and everybody just refers to it as the Financial Literacy Center. I'm going to talk briefly about the program, but President Barron is going to mention the program later in his remarks. So I just want to tell you about one new element of the program, and that's our effort to recruit alumni and staff to be financial mentors for students across the state. So today I'm pinch hitting. I have other roles here at the university, but the executive director of the program is this woman, Dodd Rizik, and she is really a saint. She is the heart and soul of this program, and it's unfortunate that she couldn't be with us today, and so she asked me to stand in for her. She is truly inspiring. I attended an alumni gathering last year, and she was the speaker, and I was so inspired by it, I contacted her afterwards and said, how can I help? And so I met with her, and she described what she does at the program, and they do webinars, and they do these modules where people can do self-learning on financial topics, but they also do one-on-one counseling for students. And so I thought I could probably spend a few hours a month counseling students. It wasn't a big deal. I could probably do that. Well, it wasn't long before she just sucked me right in. And she worked with me, and we developed this program over the summer to recruit alumni to be financial mentors. We have a new program that's part of the Mentor Network online. And so what we're trying to do now is encourage alumni to participate. And I thought it'd be useful to tell a quick story to give you an idea of what goes on with students, because I think a lot of us, me and a lot of the people here, are old enough that you don't realize how things are more complex financially for students than they were when we were cashing checks at McClanahan's and getting charged a nickel or a dime. So there's a fellow named Jake, and Jake is a junior criminal justice major here at University Park. He's from Mifflin County, and he commutes here every day. He lives at home with his mother, who's been divorced for many years, and Jake hasn't seen his father in many years. Jake works part-time, makes about $500 a month. So Jake noticed that a lot of his fellow students were paying things with credit cards. They were paying for things with their phones. They were using their watches to click a payment. and he noticed a promotion for students to get credit cards, which have been around a long time. So he thought he ought to apply for a credit card. Now, Jake had no credit history, he had no assets, but he had a job, he had some income. So he applied for a credit card and got one for $500 with a $500 limit. Well, it wasn't long before Jake blew through the $500 limit. He bought a few books. He used the cash advance feature, which is even more expensive. And so he was at $500. Well, if you look at your credit card bill that probably all of us get every month, the front page is pretty clear. It says the total amount, the due date, and the minimum required payment. Well, there are lots of people who look at that minimum required payment and they think if they can pay that, they can afford the credit card. So in Jake's case, with a $500 credit balance, the minimum required payment was only $10. The general rule for a lot of these student credit cards is 2% of the amount outstanding, or $10, whichever is greater. In this case, it's the same. So it's $10. And so $10 a month, that's no big deal. You could certainly afford that. Well, the problem is, if you're making the required minimum payment only at $10 a month, it takes Jake 601 payments to pay off his balance over 5 years, okay? And at 26% interest, which is the fairly standard rate on these student cards, the amount of interest Jake will pay on that $500 balance is $11,184. So over $11,000 in interest on a $500 credit balance. So Jake moves on. He has a car problem. He has a transmission that breaks down. He needs this car to commute back and forth to Mifflin County. And so his credit card is maxed out. So a friend of his tells him that there's a source online to get a payday loan. It's designed for students who have jobs. So you can get a payday loan, no credit history, no credit report, no assets, but a job. The key part is having a job. And Jake has a job. Jake applies for the payday loan for a mere $250. It's no interest. Sounds good. It's good for 2 weeks. The idea is it's out there until you get paid, and then the money is often sucked right out of your account on payday with a direct deposit. So Jake borrows the $250. There's no interest, but the trick here is there's a fee usually at $15 per 100. Okay, so Jake's fee $37.50 on his loan of $250. All right, so it's worth it to him at that point in time for 2 weeks. But at the end of 2 weeks, he doesn't have the money. Okay, so he can't pay off that loan. But that's okay from the lender's standpoint, because the payday loans are designed for easy rollover, and they'll just keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And most of the students who do this, and frankly most of the other people who take these short-term loans, just keep rolling it over because it's easy. Every 2 weeks, the lender says, what do you want to do? And you say, well, I don't have the money. They say, fine, we'll just reset it for another 2 weeks. Well, the problem is it's $37.50 each time. So over the span of a year, the interest rate that Jake pays on his payday loan is over 400%. Okay? So these are just two examples of the kinds of issues that the Sokoloff-Miller Center deals with. They deal with students who have cell phone plans that are much more than they can afford. They deal with budget issues, and budget sounds simple. It's like money in, money out, but that's not true when you have credit cards, because you pay for things and you don't realize you're paying for it until next month. And so the budgeting is a big issue. And as I hear about the problems that these students have, a lot of it seems like common sense. And my impulse at my age is to say, come on, you're a bright person, you can figure this out. This is not that hard. But it is. Those of you who have had adult children, I have two daughters who are very responsible young adults. They're in their 30s now. But when I roll the clock back 10 years, my wife and I were frequently saying, what was she thinking? Okay? Well, that goes on here all the time. And so we really need adult supervision for these students. Frequently, they don't have adult supervision. They need someone to say, no, you need to pay off your credit card balance. You can't run a 26% rate. So I encourage you to consider this. I'm sure all of you are competent. Anybody who's had children is competent to do this. We're not talking about allocating investments between bonds and stocks. We're talking about paying off credit cards and simple budgeting. Anybody here could do it, I'm sure. And so I have little cards printed up. I have cards with me here today. I'd love to talk to any of you about it and show you the site where you could log on for yourself and see if you could do it. But I encourage you, and for all of you who are really busy, I wish you could see this woman, Dodd Rizik, because we can all do more. And so I'm the guy with the pink tie. I'll be over here. And so if you'd like to talk to me or get a card, I'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, Taylor, and Sarah. It's very, very inspiring, and thank you for sharing your story with us. We greatly appreciate that. So on behalf of the board, thank you all for taking the time to be with us today and share your experiences. We're also pleased to hear firsthand from the students, and I know I speak for my colleagues when I say that we are grateful for that you were here today, and thanks again for being here, and the best in the upcoming year. Now on to the business of the day. Our new Academic Leadership Council Chair is Lori Bechtel-Weary, Chancellor of Penn State Altoona. We appreciate the leadership role that Chancellor Bechtel-Weary will be undertaking in the upcoming year. Laura Weiss, our new Senior Vice President for Research, will be joining us on September 16th, and we look forward to welcoming Laura in November. Joe Cullen, Chief Investment Officer for the Montana Board of Investments, has been named Penn State's new Chief Investment Officer following a national search. Joe will also begin his appointment at the university on September 6th, and we look forward to welcoming him here and working with him in November. I'm pleased to welcome our new slate of Administrative Fellows. Gary Chin, Assistant Dean for Digital Learning and Director of the Office of Digital Learning in the College of Arts and Architecture, will be spending this year with Eric Barron. Lisa Kuczynski, Director of Career Development in the Shires Honor College, will be with Zach Moore. And Deborah Thurley, Executive Director in the Office of Research Compliance, will spend her year with Nick Jones. Please join me in welcoming our new Administrative Fellows. If you could please stand so we could get, you all mind standing? Oh, good, thank you. Also joining us today are the inaugural World Campus Student Government Association leaders. We have Sean Walsh, President, and Tanya Neer, Vice President. Please stand. Welcome and congratulations on your appointment, and we look forward to working with you. And Matt, myself, and a couple other trustees met with you yesterday afternoon with the rest of the student leaders and enjoyed the opportunity. As Vice Chair Schuyler and I reflected on the past year, and as communicated previously to the trustees based on feedback from our recent retreat, we made a number of changes to our meeting schedule and format in order to maximize the benefit of our time together and focus on generative and strategic discussions. We have several goals, including enhanced engagement among trustees, maximizing our time together as a board, and facilitating strategic and generative discussion. This cycle of meetings is our next step in that process, and we will continue to make adjustments as we move forward. Thank you all for being flexible and supportive in those efforts. If you have any suggestions or comments, please pass them on to Matt or me. Before moving on, I want to welcome our Emeriti trustees with us today. We have 12. Al Clemens, Mimi Coopersmith, Keith Eckel, Betsy Huber, Dave Jones, Ryan McCumbee, Bob Metzger, Joel Myers, Ann Riley, Carl Schaefer, Linda Strumpf, and Helen Wise. So welcome. Please note that the board met this morning in executive session to discuss various privileged matters and to discuss personnel matters. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and Frank, please report on the attendance.
All trustees are in attendance with the exception of trustees Jubileer, Pagula, Rakowicz, and Rapp, and Wolf.
Thank you. We have a slate of 7 consent agenda items, 3A through 3G, to come before the board for approval. As we've done in prior meetings, if anyone thinks that any of these items should be discussed and voted on separately, please say so, and we will exclude that item or items from the consent agenda. And different from the last few meetings, we're going to go into a little bit more detail on these consent agenda items rather than just approve them wholesale. So bear with me while I provide a description on each of them. Consent agenda item 3A is the approval of the meeting minutes of our July 18th, 2019 meeting. Consent agenda item 3B is the election of directors for the Corporation of Penn State. The slate of proposed directors is set forth in the materials circulated in advance of the meeting. Consent agenda item 3C is the proposed naming of the Student Union building at the Penn State New Kensington campus the Charles H. Booth Jr. Student Union. Upon the recommendation of the Facilities Naming Committee, the university intends to rename the Student Union at Penn State New Kensington in recognition of Charles H. Booth Jr. Mr. Booth was a major driving force in establishing the Penn State University campus in New Kensington in 1958, the year I was born, and remained an active supporter as both an advisory board member and a major donor until his recent death at age 99. Yesterday, the Finance, Business, Capital Planning Committee unanimously voted to recommend the proposed naming. Consent agenda item 3D is the proposed appointment of non-university employees to the Penn State Investment Council. The Penn State Investment Council was established in 2000 to provide direct oversight of the university's endowment and long-term investment program. Members are appointed to staggered 3-year terms. Yesterday, the Finance, Business, Capital Planning Committee voted to recommend the reappointment of the following 2 candidates for an additional 3-year term. Carmen Gelati, a voting member of the Penn State Investment Council since 2008. Carmen retired in 2014 after 20-plus years at DuPont Capital Management, serving as Managing Director of Private Equities. He is responsible for DCM's global private marketing investments, including private equity and real estate. A 1977 graduate of Penn State, Carmen holds a CFA, CPA, and an MBA. Colleen Ostrowski. Colleen has been a voting member of the Penn State Investment Council since 2010 and currently serves as Senior Vice President and Treasurer of Visa, where she is responsible for pension investments, global cash management, capital markets, and financial risk management. Colleen had previously worked for Mylan, ITT, and Pfizer, all in senior positions responsible for pensions, investments, and various treasury operations. Colleen holds an MBA from Penn State. Consent agenda 3E is the proposed appointment of an architect for the post-anesthesia care unit renovation at Penn State Milton S. Hershey Medical Center, based upon a qualification-centered process. Last year, the Penn State Milton Hershey Medical Center advertised a request for proposals for professional design services based on a $9 million programming estimate. A selection committee comprised of representatives of the medical center selected the firm of BDA Architects of Clark Summit, Pennsylvania. During the project design, deficiencies discovered in the building envelope resulted in increased project scope. Additionally, rising material costs and changing market conditions have increased the overall cost estimates. The project is now estimated at $13 million, which is now above the $10 million threshold that requires Board of Trustee approval of the selected architect. Yesterday, the Finance, Business, and Capital Planning Committee voted to recommend appointment of BDA Architects as the architect of record. Consent agenda 3F is the election of trustees DeAndrea, Masser, and Olsey as at-large members of the Executive Committee. The next item we're going to pull off the consent agenda, correct, which is the appointment of Penn State Health Slate of Directors, so we'll come back to that. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 3A through 3F as presented? Second? Any discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, David, do you want to, you'll set, okay, great. May I have okay, so consent agenda item 3G is the appointment of directors of the Penn State Health Board. The slate of proposed directors is set forth in materials circulated in advance of the meeting. May I have a motion to approve item 3G? Second? Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We have 6 other action items for consideration today. Agenda item 4A is the consideration of request for 2021 appropriation for operations. At this time, I'll ask President Barron to provide some remarks and context on the university's appropriation request for 2020-21 and set the stage for our consideration of agenda item 4A. Dr. Barron?
Thank you and good afternoon. This is formal presentation of Penn State's proposed state appropriation request for the fiscal year that begins on July 1, 2020. This includes an overview of the proposed request for the 2020-21 appropriation for operations and the budget plan that it would support. The state appropriation is a very critical factor that influences Thanks. The state appropriation is a very critical factor that influences Penn State's resident tuition rates. It also includes crucial funds to help support agricultural research and extension, medical assistance funding for the Penn State Health Milton S. Hershey Medical Center, and the Pennsylvania College of Technology. For our education mission, last year Penn State received $242 million from the Commonwealth, divided evenly among the 46,000 Pennsylvania students we educated on our campuses, not including Penn College. Each student receives approximately $5,275. Note the national average of state spending per student is $7,642, and just for your edification, Alaska is $16,391 per student. Yet at Penn State, the average Pennsylvania student pays approximately $12,000 less than their out-of-state counterparts. We are more than doubling the state's investment to make Penn State more affordable and accessible for the working families of Pennsylvania. You can see here that even prior to the major reduction in 2011-12, we did not see significant increases in state support, and in the years with the red segments at the top of the bars, saw rescissions of the originally appropriated amounts partway through the fiscal year when the state revenues fell below projections. The small increases in the total for the 3 years from 2012 to 2013 through 2014-15 and again in 2016-17 were in the line items other than general support. That is, Penn College, Ag Research and Extension, and medical assistance for the Milton S. Hershey Medical Center. The current year growth includes 2% increases for Penn State general support and Ag Research and Extension, 0% increase for medical assistance, 17.6% increase for Penn College. The modest increases in appropriation over the last 6 years, combined with Penn State's intensified efforts related to access and affordability, have helped Penn State minimize tuition increases for Pennsylvania resident students. Our focus has been to reduce the total cost of a degree, decrease the rate of student borrowing, promote success of need-based students, and decrease attrition due to finances. Tuition increases across Penn State's campuses have been below national averages for over a decade. Yet in-state tuition continues to be among the highest among our peer institutions, and student debt continues to rise. I will discuss that in more depth in my President's report. Penn State Extension is the backbone of our ability to translate scientific research into real-world applications. The appropriation is used to support inflationary increases for Ag Research and Extension efforts, to rebuild capacity, to invest in several high-priority areas, and to address immediate threats facing Pennsylvania. These include the spotted lanternfly, water quality, ag safety and health, opiate and other addictions, energy security, and other areas that impact us daily. The Pennsylvania College of Technology is a national leader in applied technology education and offers a type of hands-on applied technology education that is vital to Pennsylvania workforce needs. It boasts a 96% placement rate, offering signature instruction in diverse and much-needed programs like plastics engineering, nursing, physician assistant, IT, cybersecurity, heavy equipment, construction management, and robotic welding. The increase in state appropriations will be used to support the varied technological needs of high-demand programs, including the digital radiographic room, building automation, simulation mannequins, and a creation of a makerspace to support the innovation work of faculty and students. Medical assistance funds appropriated to the Milton S. Hershey Medical Center through the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services enable citizens of the Commonwealth without the ability to pay to receive medical care at one of the nation's premier academic medical centers. Part of this funding has been designated to support the ongoing development of the regional medical campus at University Park. With a focus on the preparation of medical students for careers in primary care and rural medicine, this program addresses the health care needs of both the Center County region and the entire northern tier of Pennsylvania. Each year, the appropriation request is developed by senior leadership of the university. It is presented and discussed during FBCP webinars, FBCP committee meeting, and the public board meeting when it is presented for approval. Then it is typically submitted to the state in late September. We strive to keep tuition increases low. As we do so, Penn State also faces several budget pressures. They are final cost increases that exceed $45.9 million per year, a salary pool for faculty and staff of 2.5%, which has a price tag of $33.1 million, capital improvement facilities and maintenance, 21.8, strategic investment in innovation, 12, increased health insurance and retirement costs, 9.1, and also uncertain is the SERS increase for the state retirement system. Our proposed request for state support for operations for 2020-21 includes a 6% increase in all categories, plus an additional $2.35 million in support of economic development funding through Invent Penn State. That proposal will strengthen and grow the Innovation Hub network that has allowed the establishment of launch boxes in the Commonwealth campuses that provide support in partnership with local and regional economic development funding. Not to have a bit of levity here, but I have shown you many times the fact that we have a launch box now within 96% of the population of Pennsylvania. And we have a 15-mile circle and a 30-mile circle, and the 30-mile circle captures 96% of the population. The other thing you need to know is that I don't wear wild ties. I'm really just I'm like a little geometric tie. And I saw this tie and I absolutely loved it. And all of a sudden I realized I was doing the circles for the launch boxes in our campuses, reaching 96% of the population of Florida. So this has now become my favorite tie because I'm reaching 96% of the population of the state of Pennsylvania. Okay. Okay. I thought I needed to look for approval over here from the board chair and vice chair there on that tie selection, huh?
Only if you want us to pay for it.
Our proposed request for no, okay, yes, so I lost my place in doing all that too. Okay, if the Commonwealth provides the requested general support for appropriation, the budget plan will use every dollar of these funds to minimize the impact of expense increases on the tuition of Pennsylvania residents. This special request will enable, for Invent Penn State, will enable Penn State to drive economic development through Invent Penn State. Penn State's budget planning includes modest faculty and staff salary increases to maintain competitiveness, support for the capital plan and facility maintenance and operations, strategic initiatives, innovation, and student aid. This shows the request, which includes all other revenue increases, which equal $3 million in continued phase-out of E&G support to the College of Medicine. I think you need okay. $51,000 for student activity fee. It includes non-discretionary costs of $21.5 million for contractual salary increases for our bargaining unit staff and graduate assistants, healthcare cost increases, fuel and utility, and new facility increases, and grants and aids related to the tuition increase. The discretionary expenses include a salary merit of 2.5%, major maintenance of $3 million, capital plan as approved in our capital plan, priority and strategic investments, $12 million, student aid increases, $2 million. These are all increases that are described here. We anticipate incremental revenues and cost savings will be achieved through balancing tuition increase with cost savings, and we're currently modeling different scenarios to balance that negative of slightly more than $61 million. The appropriation request is the initial step in the budget process. We anticipate ongoing discussions with elected officials in the governor's office about the value of the Commonwealth investment in Penn State. There is enormous potential for additional investments that would drive economic development and enhance access and affordability for Pennsylvania and its residents. As this fiscal year progresses, budget estimates for next year will be updated, and the committee will be apprised of the status at the request at future meetings. Thank you. This includes the presentation on the request for 2020-21 appropriation for operations.
May I have any questions for Dr. Barron? Thank you, President Barron. May I have a motion to approve the request for 2020-2021 for operations? Second? Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 4B is to propose final plan approval and authorization to expend funds for the Animal, Veterinary, and Biomedical Sciences Building, University Park. At this time, I'll ask David Gray to provide some remarks and context for our consideration for agenda item 4B.
Thank you, Mark.
David, thank you.
We intend to build a new 105,000 square foot state-of-the-art research and instructional laboratory building on the same site as the Henning Building. This project will help solidify the College of Agricultural Sciences standing as one of the top-ranked agriculture programs in the country. This facility will accommodate two departments, the Veterinary and Biomedical Sciences Department and the Animal Science Department, which will optimize usage and lay the foundation for strengthening the two departments. The new state-of-the-art vivarium on the ground floor will mitigate one of the highest risks to the university's animal management program. The total project budget is $98.5 million, with the funding coming largely from borrowing. Yesterday, the Finance, Business, and Capital Planning Committee unanimously voted to recommend the final plans and authorization to expend funds and award contracts.
Thank you, David. Any questions for David? I have a motion to approve the final plan approval and authorization to expend funds for the Animal, Veterinary, and Biomedical Sciences Building at University Park. Second? Any discussion?
There's been some discussion on social media about the high cost per square foot of this building. Could you just maybe explain to the public the logic around why this building the higher cost is necessitated?
Yeah, Mary Lee, I think you've been involved in this.
That came up briefly on calls prior to yesterday's meeting as well as at the meeting. I don't know if Bill Sitzebee's here. All right, Bill. Part of it has to do with the vivarium, which is a vocabulary word we all became very familiar with in the last month in talking about the building. So if you look at the pecking order of building expense, you have office space at the kind of the bottom of the pyramid, then lab space in the middle. That which deals with animal safety, et cetera, is at the top of the list. And I think, Bill, that's 20% of the building is the vivarium. And that requires completely redundant mechanical systems, requires completely redundant failover systems of every type. It's also a building that has an asbestos issue, so there's asbestos abatement going on as well. Bill, what else? What have I missed?
Ma'am, all I would say is that when we do any project like this, we do cost benchmarking. Early on, when we hired the construction manager, we looked at 20 projects of similar vivarium, high-intensity lab facilities. Of the 20 projects, we're within $4 of the average price per square foot. So we think we have good pricing on that. I can't speak to the social media and where that data came from, so I can't tell you.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary Lee and Bill. Thank you very much. Any other questions? May I have a motion? I already did that. I already did, right. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry about that. Agenda item 4C is the proposed final plan approval and authorization to expend funds for the Willard Building renovation and addition, University Park. I'll ask David to provide some remarks and context for our consideration of agenda item 4C.
Thanks to a generous commitment from Mr. Belisario, the Donald P. Belisario Media Center can be realized in the 1949 portion of Willard Building. This cutting-edge facility will house the Donald P. Belisario College's state-of-the-art television studios, radio broadcast studios, its growing digital media agencies, student media operations, and space for film and video creation. This project will also allow the consolidation of the College of Communication spaces currently located in leased facilities at Innovation Park and the Media Effects Research Lab currently in James Building, and that will consolidate them into this central campus location. The total project budget is $48 million, with the funding coming from a mix of borrowing, gifts, unit funding, and cash reserves. Yesterday, the committee voted unanimously to recommend the final plans and authorization to expend funds.
Thank you, David. May I have a motion to approve the final plan approval and authorization to expend funds for the Willard Building renovation and addition at University Park? Second? Any questions? Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 4D is the proposed approval of graduate apartment rates. At this time, I'll ask David Gray to provide some remarks and context for our consideration of agenda item 4D.
The recommended rates for graduate apartments are displayed on the screen. These rates are inclusive of all utilities, laundry, cable television, wireless internet, and parking. The rate increases cover anticipated cost increases in the categories of payroll and related, utilities, and the capital assessment, which represents the 8th year out of our 10-year schedule to provide funding for the HFS capital plan. Overall, the proposed rates represent an increase of approximately 2% from the current year and are competitive with the local market. Yesterday, the FBCP committee unanimously voted to recommend the approval of the proposed graduate apartment rates.
Thank you, David. May I have a motion for approval of graduate apartment rates? Second? Any discussion? Yes, Mary Lee.
Just wanted to point out that while a market-based kind of increase would be considered standard, our leases generally only run for 9 months. So in actuality, when you look at our leases versus the market, we run them at a discount.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda 4E is the proposed amendment to authorization for Penn State Health to incur debt as a separate obligated group. David Gray will provide some remarks and context for our consideration of agenda item 4E.
At its May 2019 meeting, the Board of Trustees authorized the transfer of certain university-owned parcels of real estate with improvements thereon to Penn State Health. This is part of the effort to establish Penn State Health as its own separate obligated group. The total authorized consideration for the transfers was $18 million and was based on the book value of the assets. One of the improvements contemplated as part of the authorized transfers is the Academic Support Building, or ASB. This facility houses critical offices in support of the academic and research missions of the College of Medicine, including the School of Nursing, Public Health Sciences, Human Subjects Protection Office, and faculty offices, among others. With the footprint of the College of Medicine expected to exceed 50% in the ASB over the next few years, and in light of the opportunity to realize additional savings to the college by consolidating other off-site leased space back onto campus, the administration recommends retaining the Academic Support Building at this time, pending further analysis of the needs of the College of Medicine. Yesterday, the Finance, Business, and Capital Planning Committee voted to recommend amending the May 2019 authorization in order to retain the ASB building while transferring the residual acreage and previously approved lots for total consideration not to exceed $10.8 million at this time.
Thank you, David. May I have a motion to approve amendment to authorization for Penn State Health to incur debt as a separate obligated group? Second? Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 4F is presidential compensation. I'll ask Kathy Casey, Chair of the Committee on Compensation, to provide some remarks and context for our consideration of agenda item 4F. Kathy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The Compensation Committee met on August 16th and again yesterday in an executive session. Directly following that executive session, a public committee meeting was held. During these meetings, we reviewed detailed compensation spreadsheets that included market information for those executives whose compensation falls within our purview for approval. Based on that review, as well as discussions with President Barron about his recommendations, the committee approved salary increases for Tier 2 executives as proposed. Yesterday, we also reviewed President Barron's performance against established 2018-2019 goals based on an assessment prepared by our external executive compensation consultant. The Presidential Evaluation Report was also provided to the full board for review and discussed during this morning's executive session. Based on this information and discussions, the committee is unanimously recommending for approval by the full board a 2.5% merit increase for President Barron to be effective July 1, 2019. I would also note that all proposed increases for Tier 2 executives were reported this morning to the full board. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Kathy. I have a motion to approve presidential compensation. Second? Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I would like to note that a public announcement with further information with respect to this matter will be issued following today's meeting. We'll have an informational, I'm pleased that Paul Clifford, Chief Executive Officer of the Penn State Alumni Association, is with us today, and an update on the great things that are happening at the association. Paul? Yeah, bring it closer next time. Valuable seconds.
Thank you, Chair Dambley and President Barron. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Alumni Association's President, Randy Houston, I appreciate the opportunity to share a brief update on the association's impact during this past year as we continue to uphold our mission of service to members, to all alumni, and to our alma mater. There's no better time to be There's no better time to be a Penn Stater and to be engaged with the most powerful alumni network in the world, which currently numbers 708,389 alumni worldwide. Many people are touting the strength of our alumni network. Earlier this summer, as you know, Penn State was ranked #1 most influential alumni association by thebestschools.org. And the Princeton Review this year ranked our university as having the best alumni network of any school on its list for the second year in a row. I'm proud that our own indicators to ensure alumni, students, and friends stay connected to Penn State remain strong as well. As of July 1st, we continue to be the largest dues-paying alumni association in the world with 172,769 members. Of note is an increase in alumni membership, which now totals 142,000 of our members, our second highest number all time, and our life memberships also increased, which now account for 70% of our total membership. We're grateful to our alumni, students, parents, and friends for their constant support. By comparison, our closest peers in the world of dues-paying alumni relations organizations are Stanford, North Carolina, and the University of California at Berkeley. But in this regard, we remain unrivaled. And so we continue our work daily to strengthen the network and grow the pride in Penn State. And yes, I purposely did not mention one of those. Okay. A primary way we do this is through our roadmap outlined in our Vision 2020 strategic plan. The 6 pillars of our program, which we measure our impact, are spreading the good news of Penn State and her alumni, building and sustaining lifelong relationships, harnessing the power of the Penn State network, supporting and enhancing the student experience, celebrating academic achievement, and serving as tradition keepers. I'll use this framework to share several examples of how we made specific impact in the 2018-2019 fiscal year. Keeping alumni connected for life happens when they come back to campus for special events like our We Are Weekend initiative. This year, 650 alumni returned to University Park in June for this unique reunion experience. Alumni participated in hands-on workshops, learning activities hosted by the various colleges, tour of campus facilities, and became inductees in the Penn State Pioneers, which celebrated the class of 1969 and earlier. Empowering alumni to help other alumni is another way we strengthen ties back to Penn State. Our alumni career services programs helped more than 6,000 alumni this year through career counseling sessions, mentoring activities, and networking events. Our online networking platform, LionLink, helps extend our reach by powering virtual career connections among alumni and students with its easy-to-use profile building tools. Our affiliate group network further extends the Penn State experience to all alumni where they live or through their special interest. More than 285 volunteer groups engage over 3,000 volunteer leaders and 65,000 alumni throughout this network. In addition, our affiliate group endowments stand at nearly $12.2 million, which yielded 442 scholarships for Penn State students. Another positive indicator and a powerful statement of support from these committed Penn State volunteer leaders. Speaking of volunteer leaders, we've recently hosted 118 alumni leaders from across the country at this year's Alumni Leadership Connections regional training in Orlando, Pittsburgh, and Princeton, New Jersey. At each location, we gather leaders together for a day of intensive learning and networking designed to help provide our volunteers with the tools to help grow Penn State pride and engage alumni in their own communities. These regional training sessions are made possible in large part thanks to Jim and Kathleen Stengel, who provided the Alumni Association with a $1 million endowment to lift up our volunteer education and training initiatives. Overall, the Alumni Association is fortunate to have endowed funds that this year topped $72 million, allowing us to provide substantive programming, scholarship support, and alumni engagement in perpetuity. One example of our support is through the 2019 partnership with Thon. This year, the Alumni Association brought one of Penn State Athletics' all-time great traditions to the Price Jordan Center through our sponsorship of the first ever Thon Pep Rally Whiteout. A few minutes before the pep rally began, Thon volunteers distributed 12,000 Penn State Alumni Association t-shirts to a capacity crowd, helping unite the entire Thon student body as one against childhood cancer. We also work closely with Thon students, representatives to engage alumni volunteers to facilitate fundraisers and spread Thon's mission nationwide. Our alumni volunteers hosted fundraising galas, Thon watch parties, and provided additional support in the form of kid and dancer mail. Engaging young alumni continues to be a priority for us. With respect to young alumni, we have placed increased emphasis on the transition from student to alumni through our senior year experience and young alumni ambassador programs. The senior year experience provides graduating seniors with resources and events aimed at fostering this transition and educate seniors on the diverse ways they can get involved with the Alumni Association and stay connected to the university after graduation. The Young Alumni Ambassador Program, developed in part through the generosity of Peter and Ann Tombros, continued last year with 5 new young leaders joining the program. These high-achieving recent graduates were embedded with volunteer leaders and affiliate groups around the country as a way to learn about service and engagement while also carrying out the Alumni Association's mission and message of support to Penn State. The program, now in its 3rd year, recently expanded with 9 new ambassadors being selected to participate in the 2019-2020 cohort. This spring, we continue to help support the university's institutional priorities through our 2019 City Lights series. Since 2005, City Lights has highlighted Penn State academic and alumni experts, delivering more than 60 different programs in metro areas where Penn Staters live and work. This year, we focused on President Barron's imperative for fostering and embracing a diverse world. The series provided insight into 4 different diversity topics, engaging more than 300 alumni in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, New York, and Washington. The 2019 series offered us a springboard to share how Penn State is embracing diversity on campuses across the Commonwealth while recognizing that much work remains to be done. We remain committed to diversity through our support of the Fast Start initiative. Fast Start provides mentorship to underrepresented students in their freshman year as well as transfer students to help ensure their success early on in their Penn State experience. The Alumni Association continues to support our student athletes as they represent Penn State all over the country. From our Citrus Bowl trip and the largest pep rally in Bowls history, to supporting our lacrosse team in the national semifinals and cheering on our wrestling team as they won their 8th national championship in 9 years, we've provided countless engagement opportunities around our athletes' success. And when we travel as a Penn State family, we continue to impact the communities that we visit. This shows one of the best representations of our mission at work. Hundreds of alumni, families, and fans joined together in Orlando on December 31st for a morning of community service, assembling hygiene kits for the Clean the World Foundation. Our Alumni Association teamed up with the University of Kentucky Alumni Association to host and promote this event that is a visible example of living our land-grant mission. With regard to our overall organizational indicators, we continue to experience highs in revenues, realizing almost $13 million in revenue last year. And you can find specific outcome that's easier to read than this slide, available on our website at alumni.psu.edu. Regarding our financial stability, in March we announced a 10-year partnership with PSECU, Pennsylvania's largest credit union, and a wonderful supporter of Penn State. PSECU's customer-first approach aligns well with our mission, and the partnership unlocks an array of financial benefits for our Alumni Association members. Being able to align our brand with another Pennsylvania-based organization helps fulfill our commitment to the Commonwealth. Rolling into the fall season, we are poised to continue our outreach work in a variety of meaningful ways. We continue to spotlight Penn State's academic enterprise by hosting Huddle with the Faculty events every home football weekend at the Nittany Lion Inn. This is our 27th season and will feature faculty stars and alumni experts on trending topics all season long. Through the generous support of a donor, each Huddle presentation is live streamed on our website and made available after the event. Tomorrow, Paul Srivastava, the Chief Sustainability Officer and Director of the Sustainability Institute and a Professor of Management here at Penn State, will present on the sustainability of Penn State and Pennsylvania. And I hope that since you're in town, you'll consider joining us for this engaging event. We also welcome back accomplished alumni during our Alumni Fellow Recognition Program in October. We will continue to support our student athletes on the road with tailgates and chapter events at every away football game. And of course, homecoming is here at University Park with a parade, the traditional Guard the Lion Shrine event, and other activities. We hope you'll join us for as many of these experiences as possible. Thank you again for the opportunity to spread the good news of Penn State and her Alumni Association, and I appreciate the opportunity to share the good work of my colleagues at the Hintz Family Alumni Center. Thank you. Sorry about the long walk.
Thank you, Paul. At this time, I'll ask Eric to provide some remarks and context to set the stage for a discussion on managing student debt.
So before I begin talking about managing student debt, I wanted to share some news that's hot off the presses, as in yesterday. I received word that our research expenditures for last year rose to a new all-time record of $968.6 million for the fiscal year 2018-2019. That is $42 million above last year, a 4.5% increase, and I just want you to note that we're $31 million away from being a $1 billion a year research enterprise, which is quite spectacular and a lot to be proud of, especially given the challenges of attracting research grants and contracts. This says something, the bar set very high, and this says a great deal about what our faculty do and how successful they are in attracting research dollars. And I want to make sure I thank the research office leadership, including Associate Vice President for Research, John Hanold, and Neil Sharkey. Now, Neil Sharkey's retired, but believe it or not, he was in the office yesterday checking these numbers and checking them again. And he said when he retired that he was really sorry because he knew we were going to be close to $1 billion, but probably not over $1 billion when he retired. So, to that degree, I welcome Laura Weiss, who will be the new Senior Vice President for Research. She will be here on Monday, and as her first day, and she starts with a wonderful research portfolio, and I will say that the research grants and contracts that we've received so far this year are ahead of last year. So all good news, but I thought you would enjoy that news of another Penn State record. Okay, so many of you over many months have asked or spoken about student debt and the levels of student debt. So I thought it was appropriate to examine this issue. And there are a number of keys here to managing student debt. And I've used the word managing quite deliberately because it is one of those necessary tools in higher education to support attainment of a degree. And so these keys for managing are first controlling the total cost of attendance. This is broader than tuition because it is the total cost for a year, but also has to factor in the length of time it takes you to get a degree. We noticed, for example, the student, because of summer pass, who graduated in 3.5, so she saved something on the order of $10,000 in the cost of her tuition by graduating earlier. A second part of this is financial literacy, and again, you heard from Tom about a couple of particular examples where we know how important that financial literacy is to making the right kind of decision, ensuring graduation and promoting career success, because if you do have student debt and you graduate and have a job, you're much less likely to default. And you'll see some of the data on that. So those are the keys to managing student debt. This is a national primer, so I thought it might be appropriate to put any discussion of student debt in the context of what's going on nationally. And what you see are that the annual increases in student debt are steadily declining. Student debt is still going up, but the rate of increase is declining. However, in that context, more students are borrowing. Grants and aids that come from universities through philanthropy and through other activities are now almost 2 times the amount of loans for undergraduates. This tells you that universities are getting increasingly serious about providing those resources for students who need it the most. We also see that the role of the feds is steadily declining. And in fact, what is growing are private loans, and with the growth of private loans is greater risk for the students with higher interest rates. A statistic that I find remarkable, and you will see follow through in terms of Penn State, is of that $1.5 trillion debt that everybody talks about in the news as being something that's a big number to worry about, 1/3 of that was borrowed by top income holders. Literally, this is a financial decision that it is cheaper to get the loan and to pay it back over a period of time than to use some other set of resources that a family might have. So it's quite fascinating to think that $500 billion is actually being borrowed for college education for people that have some level of high income. 36% of the borrowers owe less than $10,000, and 57% of borrowers owe less than $20,000. So much of the numbers that we're also seeing are because there are some areas for which the borrowing rate is quite high. And so the 2 examples here are professional schools in law and medicine for which the borrowing rate can be quite high. The other thing about this is for-profits dominate the loan picture. So publics have a far better record in this regard. Time to degree and the age of the borrower are evident in terms of higher loan rates across the nation. So time to degree, another year, having to pay for that is going to equal to be higher borrowing rates. Age is in the same category, but that's frequently someone who's at home, not mobile, has to work, and so they're trying to manage that education in that way. So that is, again, more challenging, and they're likely to have higher borrowing. Lifestyle borrowing contributes significantly to debt. So the example is Indiana University's financial literacy efforts to inform students of how much they will be paying back and for what period of time. And when the students get this information, they tend to borrow less. This is the equivalent of saying, I've never had my own room, or it's equivalent of saying, I've just been in a residence hall and I've had a roommate and I really want my own room. And so they borrow the money to do it as part of cost of attendance. And when Indiana University explains to them how long they'll be paying it back, much as Tom did in looking at that credit card debt, they decide they're going to get a roommate. So borrowing at Indiana University dropped $30 million with their financial literacy effort that was there. So this is a significant part of the problem is also lifestyle borrowing. Students who don't graduate are 3 times more likely to default. So this is the reason why any discussion about managing debt, we want our students to graduate and we want them to have careers at the other end. Because if they do that, then they tend to be able to manage that debt for education. Okay, here is the changes in Penn State average loan debt at graduation. And you can see that the most profound levels of debt are out-of-state students. But of course, if you look at the out-of-state students and the amount that they're paying, it is significantly higher. The other thing you see is there is a dip. I would like to take credit for this. We cannot take credit for this. There may be some fraction in there that we could take credit for, but basically the reporting changed, and that delta from that dip is because in the prior years, they included what a student borrowed at another institution that then transferred to Penn State. And so that was included in their debt, and basically now this is not credited to us as contributing to the debt of our students. And you can see the curve has flattened, but it has gone steadily up, particularly in that time period from 2007 to 2011.
Why do you think that is? Is it just from the cost of the education? Or?
Well, so part of it is cost control. Part of it, I think, is the investment that universities are starting to put into grants and aids and financial packages. Part of it's a greater awareness about debt as a problem. So I think it's all of those. So I don't think we have some simple way to sort of way to look at that. Okay, Penn State, who's borrowing? Well, 50% of Penn State students have loans. 68% have some type of financial aid. Borrowing rises faster as time to degree increases. This is a national story. It's also a Penn State story. So if we take the 2010 cohort, graduation in 4 years, the average debt was $35,575. If they went 4.3 years, the average debt was $41,000. If they went 6 years, it was $47,000. So we see this rapid escalation of debt that is associated with time to degree, much like on a national average. And incidentally, if you don't happen to know, the debt numbers are the average of those who take out loans, not the average for our students, okay? All right, but then the other thing on the right here to look at is the income bands. $0 to $50,000 family income to a greater than $110,000 in income, and then the set of students and parents who do not fill out a financial aid form, probably because they do not expect they can qualify for financial aid. but it's interesting to look at these bands because you've got an average loan debt of 36, 38, 40, 37, almost 37. There is very little distinction between the borrowing rate and family income. So we see the same thing, that there's a high borrowing rate even in incomes where you're not filling out a financial aid form. You're also, I think, seeing that right now those groups that are stressed, probably a little bit more, are those family incomes that are about $75,000 to $110,000. And that partly reflects that we're seeing federal programs come in at a lower income, but not the same amount of programs for what we would call middle class. Okay, but the same notion that borrowing isn't necessarily correlated with level of need, which is interesting. And again, you saw that on a national level, a third of the debt was taken on by high-income earners. Okay, another question we might have about a Penn Stater is, does having loans impact graduation rates? Because if we're having a set of students and they're borrowing more and more and they go, okay, enough, I can't graduate, we know that if they don't graduate, they're 3 times more likely to default. And if they don't graduate, there's no way they're going to have the same type of career. So this is a concerning factor. So what we see here is at University Park, 5 larger Commonwealth campuses, 14 smaller Commonwealth campuses, that there's very little difference between graduation rates for those with debt and those without debt. This, quite frankly, is somewhat encouraging because it suggests that we're working hard to this path of graduation, not just that we're watching students take on loans and then giving up. This is the student loan default rates. And so what you see at the top is the default rates for the state of Pennsylvania, all educational institutions. That number is pretty high. Then you see at the next level, nationally, for public 4-year colleges, which is less than Pennsylvania, also high. Next on that list is the default rate for Penn State. Higher graduation rates, better career opportunities. So we are substantially below Pennsylvania in default rates, and we're substantially below the average for public 4 years. On the other hand, the bottom curve is the Big Ten. And this suggests, partly likely because of our cost, but this suggests that we have a lot to aspire to in having lower student debt levels for our students here at Penn State. So on the one hand, we can be proud, and on the other hand, it's not good enough. Okay, so if we've already said, and we know, we talk about this, that this is not good enough, the next question becomes, what can we do about it? And the simple fact of the matter is that if you look and you really want to impact debt, these are the 4 things that you have to think about. First of all, you should focus on targeted solutions. You really are deliberately going in and looking at who's borrowing, why they're borrowing, and working to minimize that. The second is to protect vulnerable borrowers. I don't mean to be offensive, but I'm much less worried about the high-income person that is borrowing and paying it back at a particular rate while their investments are earning a higher rate. I'm much less worried about that particular part of the population. I am very worried about that population that is in particular below $75,000 in family income. Those are vulnerable borrowers, and we know at those income levels their graduation rates are lower. So what we target should focus on that vulnerable borrower. Third, to minimize future debt, all that we can do to bend that curve as much as possible. And the fourth is to ensure that they graduate. Because if they graduate, then they're managing their student debt. They're paying it back. This is a successful life that is occurring. So these are the 4 things that we see are most important. So what I'd like to do is go through a set of targeted solutions that Penn State and you have been utilizing to manage debt and to think about the impact of each one of these programs. So at the top of this, I put a tuition fee freeze for in-state students versus a 2% increase. All resident students save $175 per semester regardless of need. The 2019-20 impact was $12 million. This is a cost containment measure, but it applies in cost containment to the entire undergraduate in-state population. The next of the targeted solutions is a Provost Award. These awards range from $5,000 to $7,000 per student per year in 2019-20. So this is 5, 5, 7, and 7 for a cumulative total of $24,000 to each awardee. These are need-based. So now you have a $24,000 impact on each one of these need-based students. This absolutely has an impact on what it is that they might borrow when the award is at that level. Each one of these targeted solutions, I've just added a notable fact, not to cover the whole landscape. Many of you have seen a lot of the summer pass things and what's occurring there. So here's just a notable impact. Since the Provost Awards began in 2013-14, we have saved those need-based students $109 million. The 2019-20 impact is $22.4 million. Anything we can do to grow this number has a substantial impact on the cost of a degree and therefore what the student debt numbers are. The Raise Me scholarships are another targeted opportunity. For Raise Me, we take specific high schools serving low-income areas. We have them earn college-ready courses. They gain points by doing that. They come to Penn State. The points turn into dollars. And the idea here is that if you're college-ready when you come to Penn State, you will graduate faster because you're not making up back classes. So 390 awards were given to students on 20 campuses in 2019-20. The awards range from $145 to $4,000 per year. A notable fact here is the average retention rate for these students is 87% that have Raise Me. These are students that are coming from low-income high schools, not expected to do well in college, and they're going to their second year at the rate of 87%. That's a notable fact that goes directly to the success in managing debt. The impact of that program was $676,000. So this is a significant impact for a small population. Again, start to imagine if we start to have the funds to advance that, and you will see the upward mobility numbers for Penn State begin to go up. The summer pass. We just heard from a student. The whole idea here for summer pass is 6 credits your first summer, a scholarship, $250 per credit, a summer job, library, gave her an academic advantage that's in there, and mentoring. And then the second summer, 12 credits, same focus program. This is a program for which we're seeking to have students be as much as 18 credits ahead by the time they start their fall semester. 364 students in 2019 and 16 campuses were funded by this philanthropic effort. The summer pass students maintained an average GPA of 3.0. Again, these are need-based students. So you're seeing in this academic success of students that are not expected to do as well. In the summer of 19, that was $754,000 contributed primarily by philanthropy. Again, start to imagine if you were ensuring that GPA not for 364 students, but for 2,000 students. Smart Track is another part of Open Doors, designed for distance learners who are first-time students with offers of $3,000 of scholarship support, mentoring, preparation classes, and support. So this is the World Campus effort to help students become more successful and graduate. These students are active military, adult, underrepresented minorities. They're place-based, and they have, therefore, little opportunity to go do things other than online, and that is a population that has a very low graduation rate. Okay, so 120 students received a minimum of $1,500 in scholarship support, plus additional assistance for 2018-19. That impact was $232,000. But again, this is a targeted solution for a very at-risk part of the population. STEP is Student Transitional Experience Program. So what we came to understand is that you started at a campus, we save you perhaps $12,000 a year because you're doing that. You change locations to another campus, and if you come to University Park, we charge you quite a bit more. And we discover those students are indistinguishable in terms of academic performance after a semester, but they take a semester extra to graduate. So as you know, this is like saying, I saved you $12,000 this year and the year before, please give us $8,000 back, because they take longer to graduate. SMEAL pioneered a program to provide a scholarship, 2 courses that meet degree requirements, a professional seminar, mentoring, and network experiences to enable students to better transition. 40 students in 2019 were awarded $1,500. Now, I just want you to look for SMEAL. The 4-year graduation rate of those students is 96.4%. The 6-year graduation rate is 98.3%. That's the graduation rate of a very high-level private institution for a set of students that were transitioning from a Commonwealth campus. So this is a type of effort that has significant impact because you're truly advancing what the graduation rate. Summer 2019 impact, $95,000. Again, start to imagine if this can grow. Complete Penn State. And again, we heard from a student who was in good standing and started to become stressed financially, and many of you in this room have given funds to help with Complete Penn State so that they do not walk away without their degree. Because I guarantee you those students have been borrowing, and if they walk away without their degree, the default rate goes up 3 times. So incredibly important to have somebody in good standing get to the finish line. So in just over a year, 339 students from 15 campuses and 11 colleges have been assisted by this program. Here is the notable fact, which I find just to be unbelievable. 275 of those people graduated. An additional 59 either just graduated or will graduate in fall. Almost every single student that almost fell off the cliff, that was tapped on the shoulder by Penn State and provided resources like many of you gave, made it to the finish line. That has a significant impact on managing the debt. 2018-19, $1 million was given to those students to help them graduate. The impact of Open Doors is significant. 906 donors have contributed to 546 endowments. The beginning of that program has contributed $2.8 million to 1,305 students. The average award was $2,146. This starts to impact debt loads, and clearly I've shown you that it impacts completion rates and therefore the management of whatever debt they have. And we see it. They have higher retention rates, higher grade point averages, lower late drop rates than a comparable population. So we see there from Complete Penn State has attracted the highest number of endowments, and the total, including any Open Doors, in other words, a more general commitment there, 546 endowments. So the total impact of philanthropy here was 809 new scholarships inspired by the matching program that we authorized, which came up with $188.1 million in endowed student support. Basically fully funded, that should be generating about $8.5 million a year. And in total, we've raised, as you saw earlier this morning, more than $330 million in the Open Doors imperative. These are endowments that are targeted at managing student debt, reducing the total cost of a degree, making sure people finish, and making sure that they pay back the debt because they have a good career. It is not the only story to have this particular component of it, because we also know in this sequence of things of what we do that advising and institutional support make a tremendous amount of difference. And so I would like to just highlight a couple of those. The first one I want to highlight is the Sokolov-Miller Family Financial and Life Skills Center. And as you saw, the significance of this, of having a student not understanding credit card debt, doing something for a payroll, and what a hole that they dug into the particular process. So we were named the number 13 in top college financial literacy programs in the nation for 2019. This was before realizing the impact of the Sokolov-Miller contribution. We were named number 1 in the Big Ten for financial literacy programs. You see the generous endowment. We now have 5 full-time staff, 2 graduate assistants, 10 student ambassadors, and we've started to receive gifts from other areas to support self-study modules and expand the outreach for the students. I thought you would like to see some of the statistics. First-year experience, 499 sessions since 2013, 202 classes reaching 5,000 students just last year alone, one-on-one staff and peer counseling sessions, 388 personal meetings with students last year, mentoring program with alumni, bi-monthly webinars, 24 were held last year, financial literacy programs for student athletes as a special group, Zoom presentations to Commonwealth campuses, pilot peer mentoring program at Penn State, New Kensington. It is reaching a substantial number of students. We want to reach even more. Academic advising is also critical. One of the things we've discovered with many of these different programs is as soon as you couple an advisor, a mentor, to these programs, the success rate of the programs grows. One of the other parts of advising is to make sure that everybody's on track. And so this goes beyond selecting classes and checking degree requirements. It's really a conversation that starts to occur with students and with educators so that people can have a good transition to postgraduate life. So it's about intentionality and impact. And so Starfish was introduced in 2015. It steadily had new things added. Allows all academic advisors to use the same platform to maintain advising notes and mentor student progress so everybody sees it, even if it's somebody else. It identifies at-risk students in real time and connects those students to the services they need so they do not get behind. Serves undergraduate and graduate students, allows for easy appointment scheduling. New data analytics that are being added will further improve this effectiveness. I think Rob Pangborn would tell you this was a monumental shift in our capability to be able to help students. And again, I would just like to give you a few statistics. 50,000 plus unique students heard from at least one instructor on their progress in this course in 2018-2019. Almost 50,000 students scheduled 159,000 plus academic advising appointments with 808 different advisors. 11,972 students scheduled 26,000 meetings with 575 other people for help. Financial aid coordinators, fellowship directors, et cetera. So this is reaching a lot of students, and we expect to have this have significant impact because now our faculty know and see when it is that a student is starting to have an issue. Career services is another part of this. So we want to control that debt, we want to manage it, we want to minimize it, then we want to make sure people have timely graduation. It saves them a lot of money, advising financial literacy. And the last part is we want them to have a great job. Our career services, since 2018, is a single integrated career enterprise system for 37 career units across the entirety of Penn State. It provides access to all jobs and services for all students and alumni. Allows employers to post career opportunities on one central system, enables both university-wide reporting and college-specific, campus-specific reporting of career success activities, and Penn State has become a national leader among large universities for holistically, collaboratively managing career service. Again, just to give you a sense of impact, some statistics. In 2017-2018, 73 career fairs, 4,675 employers, 33,315 students and alumni. The Fall Career Fair alone, 550 employers and 10,000 students. 17,000 on-campus interviews annually. 44 interview rooms are in the Career Services Center. 42,000. Are you tired of these numbers that I'm just, and they're big. It's not easy to say 42,898 over and over and over again in terms of what the impact. Those are individual career coaching sessions annually. 1,934 career workshops, 667,000 plus participants, 78 career courses taught to almost to 2,500 students. So again, very impactful program, and we get a lot of feedback when we ask employers about it. How would you rate the overall preparedness of our students? 95% rated excellent or good. Penn State students were far more prepared and professional than students in other schools that I attended. We are deliberate in this particular process. I've been in the talent acquisition for many years and attended career fairs all over the country. I've never been more pleased with the preparedness of the student body at a fair than I was today. So, to return to where we began, if we want to manage student debt, and all of us in this room care deeply about its level and the fact that it's increasing, and we're not satisfied with the fact that the increase is going more slowly. My belief is that if you want to have impact, it is to add $12 million to the Provost Fund so that we have many more students that have the opportunity to save $24,000. It is targeted solutions that take each level at risk. Readiness coming from high school, their transition that help give them a head start so that they finish, step programs if they transition, make sure we have programs that help them complete, and embedded in that is a fine advising program to catch problems before they are a penalty of an extra semester or two, and financial literacy, because we know financial literacy can have a substantial effect on student borrowing. Those are the focal points. Targeted solutions, protecting the vulnerable borrowers as the most important for us to protect, minimize that future debt any way we can, and ensure degree completion, because a degree completion at Penn State means you pay back your student debt. So that concludes my presentation on student debt. I hope it's been interesting, and Mr. Chairman, I'm more than happy to answer questions if you have the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does the program also reach out into our Commonwealth campuses?
The-
The numbers are inclusive of Commonwealth?
Yeah. So one of the things about the Career Center is it's very nice to have that here, but this is one integrated system. We want to make sure all students have that ability and all employers. The financial literacy part of it, the Zoom presentations, for example. But to tell you the truth, the Financial Literacy Center has done so well that in these dozens and dozens of modules, we have people all over the country that are taking those modules that have no connection to Penn State at all, because they see the value and the quality of them on whether you take out a credit card and what kind and when do you borrow money and when do you don't. Yeah?
Yeah, Eric, I just wanted to amplify on this program to bring in financial mentors through alumni and so on. One of the specific purposes or goals is to take in all the campuses to make sure it's all consistent.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Barron, congratulations on so many wonderful programs. They're really having an impact. When you look at all the different ones, Raise Me, Smart Track, STEP, all the ones you outlined, what percentage of the total need is being met? And how much more do we have to go in terms of having the resources to help everybody in need?
You could absolutely double every single one of those programs and we wouldn't hit all the need. So, and I think this is why a lot of institutions look at balancing and may take their tuition and decide to invest it into programs like the Provost Awards, or, I think we're sort of unique because we're hitting this at every single fail point for a student, from coming in the door all the way to completion. But but I think you're seeing a lot of institutions that really are recognizing that this isn't just your grandmother and grandfather's scholarship anymore. This is really targeted solutions, and the impact on student debt is if we can deliver $24,000 to that student or $2,000 to that student, that becomes really important.
Dr. Barron, thank you so much for the presentation. And I know you've spoke on the issue of wraparound services before. So all the other factors that go into play that impact students stopping out, dropping out. And you speak on that often, and I was just wondering, where does that align with your plan? So, for example, the housing factors, the food security, factors, the tying students to those systems of support?
Yeah, so, and I think the thing that I like about this institution is we don't look at these as one-offs. We didn't look at Invent Penn State as, oh, we need a better tech transfer office. We said beginning to end, what do we have to capture? And we did 15 things. And the exact same discussion occurred on access and affordability. Let's not just look at this from the viewpoint of raising the next dollar for a scholarship. The whole reason why we had the matching program is because we decided this would be foreign to most donors. Because they would go, summer pass, well, normally I just do a scholarship. But the summer pass is targeted for a particular purpose, Raise Me for a particular purpose. The outcomes from Complete Penn State are just astounding. It's like 7 of the students that were going to fall, of the 300 and some students who were going to fall off the map, don't look like they're going to graduate. How could we have such a high? So it's because it's holistic. And I think it matches up with the fact that the food bank becomes a philanthropic opportunity because food security is so important, and why we have our students that are sitting there looking at student poverty as an issue that's there. So I see all of these things as coupled. So it can't, I just don't think any longer we can sit there and say, here's the one dimension, here's the thing we do, and it solves the problem. I think it's very multidimensional. But getting to your degree has got to happen, or you have the worst possible outcome. Yeah.
Yeah, we have, back to student loans and defaults. We have information on the default rate. Do we have any information how long it takes them to pay back, and also what the average interest rate is at graduation right now?
I have not, no, not that I know of. It may be that we can get that. I actually thought maybe I could divide up a lot of factors by income bands and things like that, and the Office of Institutional Assessment, or that's what I call it, I think they looked cross-eyed at me and said, no way, I don't think we can pull that off. So, yeah, so
Thank
there's
you.
some data we can get to and some we can't. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Frank.
Each of the trustees has in front of you an updated version of our crisis management guide. We provide it in print version in the event that the nature of the crisis makes internet access or Wi-Fi access impossible. This information is also available on Board Effect, but wanted everybody to have a print version of it to carry around with them so they have it. It has confidential and sensitive information in it, so please treat it as such.
Any questions on that? Are there any other matters to come before the board? Yes, Cynthia.
Mark and Eric, I just want to commend Penn State and the Sustainability Institute for the solar array. I know the video really told the story, but beyond what was said there, it's the largest solar array in Pennsylvania. I think when you think about the land grant mission of this institution, to be a leader in renewable energy, to be a leader in agricultural sustainability by adding farm income, and then the elements that tie into education, that the farmer involved in the 500 acres was looking forward to hosting students on the farm to learn about sustainability and planting and such. And there's a relationship with Penn State Mont Alto that's been established. I think that model is really at the cutting edge of land grant university mission, and it's also, I don't know how to measure this, but it creates an attractive image for Penn State for today's students. So I think it just hits on so many things that are of value that we talked about. So Eric, and you and your team are to be really commended for that leadership. I know the governor was really excited that day, and both you and the governor and the guy from BP Power Source said they hope not to be the largest solar array in Pennsylvania in short time in history, but right now Penn State's right out front in that, and it's really a great place to be. So take all the bragging rights you can on that, because it sends a great message to students. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we're adjourned. Have a good weekend.